Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 55. Anthony DiClementi, I'm so excited to have you back on the show. You have to be one of my favorite guests. For listeners who didn't listen to the episode I had you on last time, Anthony is a biohacker, and he is so much more than a personal trainer. He is what personal training is to the Tesla versus a Duracell battery. Like so much more. So welcome back to this show. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today. You have some points around chronic pain that are going to just blow our minds. And also, you just launched your podcast. I know that you are really excited about that. I am too. So many fantastic interviews that you have done, and you just launched it today. Tell us a bit about your podcast.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. And it's funny that you made the Tesla comparison because last week someone asked me if I could have dinner with anyone alive or dead, who would it be? And after much reflection, Nikola Tesla was my answer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we just launched the podcast today, so pretty excited about that. We've got some amazing interviews. The first one the first one we released was with the P90X man himself, Tony Horton. We've got a bunch of others that we're just gonna be slow dripping. We've done probably 30 to 40 episodes, but we've got Mark Sisson from Mark's Daily Apple, Dr. Michael Murray, neurosurgeon Dr. Jack Cruz, the greatest big wave surfer of all time, Laird Hamilton, Wim Hof, who's now known as the Iceman, who's got 23 different Guinness World Records, the professor of neurobiology at Stanford, Andrew Huberman, Abel James from the Fat Burning Man podcast episode, Brian McKenzie from CrossFit Endurance, Ori Hofmeckler of the Warrior Diet, Ben Greenfield from Ben Greenfield's Fitness, Dr. Tom O'Brien, the gluten sensitivity guy, Drew Canoli from FitLife.tv, Kelly Starrett of Mobility WOD, Craig Ballantyne, a whole bunch of others. So some amazing, Dr. Joe Pizzorno, who wrote the book on functional medicine.
Yes, I love him. I met him. He's fantastic.
Brilliant man. So Alan Christensen on how to biohack adrenal fatigue, and so some incredible episodes. And that's the Biohacking Secrets show. It's now available on iTunes, and we're releasing on all those other podcast platforms like, I don't know, Stitchers. Yep. I don't even know what they are, but we're releasing it on all of them. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
I am so excited to follow your podcast. This is so cool. So biohackingsecrets.com is your website. Mm-hmm. And we could probably type into iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play Biohacking Secrets podcast and find you.
I would guess.
Okay.
I think so.
I'm also going to have links to everything that Anthony DiClementi does in the show notes of today's podcast. So you'll easily find his podcast link through the show notes. Now, we were talking before we hit the record button, we were talking about a few things that you're really passionate about. And last time we talked about biohacking and what the heck is that and how do we gain optimal health through diet, nutrition, and exercise. And today we talked a little bit about how one of your passions is helping end childhood obesity. Another passion of yours is helping people no longer have chronic pain. And I noticed that every time I post an episode about chronic pain in some way, we get way more downloads. So obviously my listeners are really interested in learning about how to overcome chronic pain, how to end chronic pain. And so I'd love for you today to share what you have observed through working with all of your clients, what's going on with chronic pain, and what's causing it? Because God knows when people go to the MD with chronic pain, they're given drugs, they're giving band-aids. They don't get to the root cause.
Yeah, it's one of the most physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausting situations that we can experience is being in chronic pain. And a lot of times, what before I even work with a client one-on-one, we're chatting on the phone, and I like to assess where are they at energetically, where are they at in terms of their mood and happiness, where are they at in terms of their body composition, and a number of other factors. But one of those is pain. And the program, before we even start building things out, we do a full health assessment to figure out what could be at the root cause of what they're experiencing. And then, of course, what is, where do they want to start? Because that's going to determine the approach that we take. And a lot of people will say, well, I want to lose weight. I want, more energy. I want to feel like I'm happier and not so stressed. And I want less pain. Where do you suggest I start? And I usually suggest we start with pain, because it affects so many other facets of our health. And when we're in chronic pain, it drains us energetically. It affects our mood. It affects our cognition, and it limits our ability to move, which is therapeutic in and of itself. And so I say, let's start with the pain, because you'll find that when we address that, everything else starts falling into place. You're able to start moving more, which then, as many of your listeners know, the more we move, the more it affects the release of feel-good neurotransmitters and endorphins and chemicals that give us that runner's high, and it helps facilitate and initiate processes in the body that start the healing process. So we usually do start with pain, and it's so important. It affects everything else, and it's one of those things that has reached epidemic levels in society today. And there's many reasons for it, and a lot that are overlooked.
And there's a increased addiction rate for all these opioid prescriptions. I actually just interviewed a doctor who specializes in medicinal marijuana. Most of her patients are in chronic pain, and through using medicinal marijuana, for example, not smoking it, but tinctures or edibles, her dosing is so low, she doesn't want to get people high. She just wants enough of the medicine to help the body heal itself, because it has anti-inflammatory properties and anti-pain properties. But she notices that there's about 33% chance, if you get on a prescription medication for pain, you have a 33% chance of becoming addicted to it. And she just, I mean, that's just crazy. So most of her patients that come to her have some form of addiction, because they're so desperate to get rid of the pain that then they become addicted to taking the drugs, and they're still not addressing the root cause.
Yeah. There's I had, I don't know if I told you or if this had happened last time we spoke, but I was out in Boise doing some work with Russell, and one of the things that we do when I'm out there is, I'll get up at 5 a.m., get ready at the hotel, and then head over to his place, and we'll do a workout from 6 to 7. And then his wife was kind enough to let him turn their second garage into a full gym with, like, half of it is a giant wrestling mat.
Nice.
And we'll go there and we'll end the workout wrestling. And we do it every time. Everything's, it's all in good fun. And this time around, just ended up getting tangled, caught my arm funny, and when we hit the mat, I tore my pec major, tore the muscle away from the shoulder, and had to go in and I went to Rush here. They work with a lot of the Bulls and Hawks players, and they said, all right, we got to do an MRI. If it's 50% or less, we can get away with not doing surgery. If it's more than 50%, we got to do surgery. And it turned out to be a complete 100% tear. So we had to do surgery, and then afterwards, there was just this abundance of Norcos and OxyContin flowing my way, and they said, they're like, you need to take these, and you need to take them ahead of before you even feel the pain, otherwise you're going to wake up in a world of hurt. And so I'd never taken either of those substances. And you can very easily see how people can get addicted. It was very fun. and it was like, you wake up in the morning, you take a couple of Norcos and an Oxycontin, you're like, wow, this is it, like it makes it's like a Friday night every day. But then you realize that it's important to keep these things in check and not not use them any more than you need. So I quickly, weaned myself off and stopped taking them even earlier than they suggested. But very, very addictive substances. And yeah, and you mentioned the medicinal marijuana too. I just did a video recently that was talking about that. There's so much to medicinal marijuana. Yeah, it's anti-inflammatory, but one of the cool things is that our body produces these endocannabinoids that are used for lowering inflammation, for the alleviation of pain, and we even know now that they help to clear beta amyloid plaque from the brain. And
Wow.
there are a number of conditions, some of which are initiated by some of the health challenges that we'll discuss in today's episode. But there are a number of conditions. Some are also genetic that result in lower endogenous meaning from within the body endocannabinoid production. And when we supplement with medicinal marijuana, particularly in the form of edibles, like Gold Leaf is a pretty popular brand that is prescribed at a lot of dispensaries, it can be used by our body the same way that we use these endocannabinoids to lower inflammation, to alleviate pain and increase the levels of neurotransmitters and endorphins in the body, but also to remove beta amyloid plaque from the brain. And we're now realizing that THC and CBD, the two specific forms of endocannabinoids in marijuana, have a high there's a lot of use for them in the prevention and reversal of Alzheimer's disease and some of these neurodegenerative conditions that are linked to cognitive decline.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm so happy to be alive at this time in the world where these discoveries are being made. Both my grandfathers died of complications due to Alzheimer's, so I'm really looking forward to seeing this research coming to light and being, accepted in more mainstream science. And you are one of the pioneers that are paving the way and educating people and getting it out there. So let's dive in and talk about chronic pain. What have you observed and how have you helped people alleviate chronic pain and get to the root cause?
Yeah, so the most important part of coaching and even, well, I tried to include it in the book too, because not everyone can afford one-on-one coaching. So we've got an entire troubleshooting section in the book to help people figure out, all right, what is the root cause of what's going on? For people that are tired of just taking NSAIDs and different supplements and things that help for a little bit with the pain, but as soon as they stop them, the pain is coming right back. People that are saying, look, I want to figure out what is causing this inflammation. We do a lot of deep discovery at the beginning, and we're saying, all right, what does this individual have going on inside their body that could be contributing to this? And without a doubt, one of the biggest things is gut dysfunction. Now, a lot of people, that's such a broad term because there are so many different forms of gut dysfunction that can occur, and usually when someone has one or any number of them, they're kind of aware because they eat certain foods, they get gas, bloating, stomach distension, constipation, diarrhea, or they've been labeled with any number of the myriad of terms that correlate with digestive disorders, Crohn's, colitis, IBS, etc. So they know there's something that's not right with their digestion, but rarely do they know what it is. And as Hippocrates so astutely said in 400 BC, all disease begins in the gut.
Wow.
And it's just as true today as it was back then. So we need to first, if there are gut issues involved, we need to look and figure out what they are. There are two specific areas that I'm going to talk about today. and one is related to the gut and one isn't, but they're very commonly overlooked in people that are dealing with chronic pain. And I think we'll help a lot of people just by putting this on their radar as one of the potential causes that could be contributing. Now, the one thing that I want to pre-warn people is I don't want folks to listen to this and the two things that I name, they say when you have a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. I don't want everyone to assume that just because they've got chronic pain and they're listening to this episode that they have one of the two things that I'm discussing. But if they've struggled for a long time looking for the root cause of their chronic pain and not had any luck, these could be two rocks that are worth turning over. And so the first is parasites. And it's one of the things that I do with coaching is I'll give people a list of symptoms, and I'll say, how many of these symptoms have you experienced in the past 12 months? It probably would have been better if I even started this and not mention parasites, because as soon as you say parasites, nobody wants to think that they have it, right? So you get this, like, they don't accurately answer the question if they know it's parasites, because they're like, oh, and anytime anything's like on the edge, they lean toward no, because there's this mental block. But I'll say, all right, we're going to go through these symptoms, and I want you to tell me how many of these you've had in the past 12 months. So just for fun, we'll do this so the listeners can kind of play along. And just tally each one of these that you have experienced in the past 12 months. So diarrhea, gas, fevers, constipation, bloating, allergies of many kinds, nausea, itching, particularly anal itching, but any form, fatigue, burning sensations in the stomach, sleep disorders, waking up throughout the night, cough, distension of the abdomen, memory and concentration issues, irritable bowel syndrome, joint and muscle aches and pains, hives, mucus in the stool, poor immune response, rashes, and teeth grinding. And what I usually tell clients is if you answered yes to 3 or more of those, parasites is something that you want to at least have on your radar. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have them, but if you said yes to 3 or more of those in the past 12 months, there's a moderate probability that you have parasites. If you answered yes to 5 or more, then we're starting to get into the high probability. And I've had clients that have had 8, 10, even 12 plus. So that is one of, if someone is able to be objective and honest enough to say, all right, I've experienced a good amount of those, then parasites are a possible cause of their pain and discomfort.
And in the last time when we talked about parasites, you had mentioned that you don't really feel that any lab work could be accurate, because you have had clients where they were positive for parasites but it showed negative on the labs, and so you would rather that they go through a cleanse anyway.
There are labs that work and do diagnose parasites, but I think that it's more detrimental if one comes back as a false negative, just because we're so biased towards not wanting to have parasites.
Right.
And a symptom-based diagnosis, if I'm talking with someone and they want help, it's because they've got something going on. There's some manifestation of suboptimal health. And if they on top of that are experiencing a good number of these symptoms, then let's see if by taking steps that have been shown to improve prognosis due to parasites, it gives them an alleviation of some of those negative symptoms.
So what kind of parasite cleanse do you recommend?
So I use there's a lot, and parasites are they're tricky pathogens. It can take anywhere from 2 to 12 months to get rid of parasites, especially if it's a severe case. So buying a couple mixed supplements that have got some cloves and wormwood and things like that, it's probably not going to do it. And what happens is a lot of people also will be like, oh, maybe I do have parasites, and they'll go buy Scram or some other parasite supplement. They'll take a bottle or two, and they'll be like, well, got that taken care of, didn't fix the issue. What's next? So what I'll do is, it depends on the individual, and it depends on what other issues are co-presenting themselves, but it's usually starting with some form of the Hulda Clark protocol. And she has a parasite cleanse. We'll start with that, and we'll do, depending on how severe it is, anywhere from 2 to 6 rounds of it. So each round is 18 days. Take 2 days off in between. Try to start it on a full moon, because that is when parasites are most active.
Really?
Yep. Wow. And people with parasites sometimes notice if they're tracking their symptoms. So if anyone listening is has felt like they've had something going on for a long time, and they have these cycles of feeling just like complete garbage, and then they're like, oh, I'm getting better. And then, oh, nope, not getting better at all. I feel like garbage again. Oh, I'm getting better. Maybe that supplement's working. Oh, nope, feel like garbage again. Or like, oh, the pain's not as bad as it was. Oh, yeah, it's just as bad as it was. It may be the life cycles of these parasites.
Wow.
And it can correlate with their activity. So the best time to start a parasite protocol is in conjunction with the full moon. And I know this, we're starting to sound like some horror movie, and make sure you swallow a silver bullet or like whatever. But yeah, it does tend, their life cycles and activity does tend to coincide with the full moon, and we start off with that, and then sometimes we'll even utilize a number of different tools where I don't use the Hulda Clark zapper, but I do use a similar tool that is even stronger and more effective for cleansing the blood and paralyzing some of the pathogens so that our immune system can do its job. And that's what a lot of this comes down to, is not like it's not like I have a weak immune system and I need supplements to then get my body working properly. It's like, all right, how do we strengthen our immune system and strengthen our bodies and give them the opportunity to do their job? Because nothing heals us aside from ourselves. And sometimes what we need to do is, if there are things like if we have toxic overload, particularly if those toxins are coming from pathogens living inside of our body, we need to do things to help improve our body's detoxification pathways, and also give it a little helping hand. And sometimes that involves some of these zappers that can help cleanse the blood. We use I use a particular water ozonating machine, and there's a lot of bad ones out there, and there's only one that I use. We'll do sometimes colon cleanses and enemas of different forms, coffee enemas, like from the Gershon protocol that was popularized by Max Gershon close to 100 years ago and has been used by hundreds of thousands of people around the world to help improve their I don't want to say cure, because then you've got all sorts of governing authorities coming after you, but there's a lot of people that have had cancer and then not had cancer after making this protocol a part of what they're doing. And coffee enemas are great for increasing our body's production of glutathione, the production of bile, and the increased liver function, improved liver function. So we use a combination of those things. And then in really bad cases, I have a very detailed protocol that I'm doing this with a few clients now that are currently pooping out parasites. And it's a combination of it's some modifications that I've made on Dr. Diedrich Klingart's work, Dr. Simon Yu's work, and some of the other the parasite centers throughout the world that have had a lot of success with helping people with these symptoms, and I put it together in a way that we've found to be most effective in getting to the root cause of the issue and having these people feeling much better. anywhere from 3 to 12 months down the line, and then making sure that parasite cleanses are something you do uh, every 6 to 12 months.
If someone doesn't have a parasite, but they said yes to some of those symptoms, is it harmful to do a parasite cleanse if you don't have a parasite?
I've not had anyone that has experienced a worsening of symptoms from doing a parasite cleanse. That doesn't mean
Wow.
that my answers are absolute. That is based on my experience in working with clients one on one, and someone may have experienced otherwise. So I never speak in absolutes, but I've not had anyone where we've suspected parasites, they've done a parasite cleanse, and they've said, Anthony, I'm just feeling so much worse. Now there are Herx reactions and die-off reactions, but that's with everything, whether they're dealing with candida or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or any number of other internal pathogens. Even Lyme's disease, you get, especially Lyme's disease, you get die-off reactions,
Hmm.
and that's usually where they feel worse. Flu-like symptoms, increased achiness, brain fog, fatigue, the need to sleep more for anywhere from 1 to 3 days. But then it's like one step back for 2 steps forward. They usually feel a lot better after that. And those periods of feeling down can be shortened with tools like the coffee enemas and some of the other things that we use to improve our body's detoxification pathways.
The zapper that you mentioned, is it a Rife machine or what's up with the zapper?
No, it's not a Rife machine. I use the Sota, SOTA,
Hmm.
silver pulsar. It's available on sota.com.
Hmm.
I use their water ozonator too, as well.
Yeah, that name rings a bell. I'll have to look into it. Very cool.
Yeah,
Um,
they're great, and we've got a protocol that builds people up, tells them exactly here's how long you wear it week one, and when you wear it, here's how long you wear it week two, week three, and then thereafter, and then same thing with the ozonated water, and we'll specifically use the ozonated water, not just drinking it, but we'll use that for enemas too.
hmm Makes sense. Sure. Wow. So, what in your experience, why do people with parasites experience chronic pain?
Well, I think a big part of it is toxic overload. You have the parasites can cause a domino effect where our other body systems just start shutting down. I From what I've seen, there's a strong connection between parasitic infection and blood sugar dysregulation,
Hmm.
and hypochloridia, low stomach acid production. So it makes sense that if you think over millions of years, these parasites may have adapted mechanisms to suppress our body's own stomach acid production, because that creates an environment where it's easier for them to survive and proliferate. And then from there, we have a harder time breaking down our food because we're not producing as much stomach acid. More parasites are able to get a foothold in our body, and it can spin out of control. And then what you have is a situation where you're not only dealing with the toxins that your body's producing, but you also have these organisms that are eating your food. So they're causing nutrient deficiencies. They're then pooping inside of you. You have to get rid of their toxins too. And quickly we have toxic overload. Um, Beyond that, when we have nutrient deficiencies, toxic overload, that those increased toxins elevate inflammation. We start to experience pain. As we know, there's a direct correlation between inflammation and pain. One of my pet peeves is, it seems like now everyone's getting hip to the term inflammation, but no one's saying, why am I inflamed? They're just like, I need to drive down inflammation. Well,
Right.
why are you inflamed? It's like it's almost I don't know, but yeah, it's become like a buzzword that everyone's throwing around, but no one's saying, why am I inflamed? And that's really where our thinking needs to go if we're gonna solve these issues. It's not about slamming a whole bunch of curcumin and turmeric, and those are obviously synonymous for people listening, but some people know them by one and some people know them by the other.
Right.
And just to drive down inflammation, because that can also lead to other things. Curcumin and turmeric is a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. So for guys that are taking a ton of turmeric and curcumin, it's going to affect their body's conversion of testosterone to estrogen and can throw their hormones out of whack, and then their sex drive can be affected, and they may not and then they can experience erectile dysfunction. So and we see that too with things like astaxanthin. It's not as big of an issue for women, but if you have guys taking 12 milligrams of astaxanthin, I've had guys that have their penis stop working because they're they're throwing their hormones out of whack. So it's not like, hey, I just need to drive down inflammation and take a whole bunch of stuff for inflammation. It's one of those situations where a little bit of knowledge can almost be more dangerous than ignorance.
Yes. Wow. See, this is why you're a biohacker.
Where were we going with that? I had something. I lost my train, but it'll come back to me.
So people are just taking substances because the buzzword is to drive down inflammation, but they don't really know. They're not asking what's the root cause. Why do I have inflammation? What besides parasites? What are other common causes of inflammation that we need to be aware of?
Yeah. And the last thing that I wanted to mention, because you had asked about how parasites can cause chronic pain. Well, we also, as these things continue to spiral, you've got blood sugar dysregulation, which then also contributes to inflammation. You have as pain starts, we then move less, and everything just gets worse. Once you take away movement, which happens once we're in pain, it's a slippery slope. And then you have people that are like, I know I need to move more. I know that is a key part of my recovery, but I'm in so much pain I can't. And sometimes we need to take a step back and say, all right, what can we do to drive this pain down so that you can basically reverse all of these processes that I just described, with the toxic overload and with the blood sugar dysregulation and with the inflammation and pain that has resulted, and with the nutrient deficiencies because we've got these things that are eating our food, and we just kind of start working backwards. And one of the tools that I want to give your listeners that can be really helpful in doing that is ultra baths. And this is where I recommend doing them early in the day, but I'll give you the pros and cons of that. You fill a bathtub with water as hot as you can tolerate. That's very important. And then you add 2 to 4 cups of Epsom salt, and then half that amount of baking soda, 1 cup of food grade hydrogen peroxide, which also increases oxygenation of the tissues, and then you can add, if you want, 10 to 15 drops of lavender oil just to help with lowering cortisol and our body's stress response. Soak for 30 minutes. Do that every day for a week. Do it first thing in the morning. If you got to get up half an hour earlier, yeah, I know we're all busy, and a half an hour is a half an hour. It's up to you. If you'd rather be in pain, don't do it. But do it every day for a week. Half an hour in the morning, and you will note, if you don't notice on day 1, by day 7, you will absolutely notice less pain and stiffness. You'll be moving better, and it will at least allow you to start walking more or start jogging and do those workouts outside. So if your pain is in a really, really bad place, then you may need to do more. If your pain's not in a bad place, you may feel it from the first time you do an ultra bath. But that's one of the tools that I use a lot with clients, just to get that pain down, drive down inflammation. I've seen a very strong connection between parasitic infections and magnesium deficiency. And then what happens there is, when we're deficient in magnesium, not only do we get constipated, but you'll see symptoms like a propensity to cramping. So then when people try to start working out, they find their muscles are locking up. They're more likely to cramp. They're dealing with symptoms that they may have labeled as fibromyalgia. And they sometimes even experience things like eyelid twitching. They'll be like, why the heck is my eyelid twitching? I can't stop it. Well, it may be that you have magnesium deficiency, and that magnesium deficiency may be related to a parasitic infection. It could all be interrelated, but we want to get in the habit of asking why. What is the root cause? Why is that happening? Okay, it's happening because of inflammation. Why am I inflamed? And just drilling down until we have one answer that is a clear deviation from the way that we are supposed to live in optimal health. So I had to take a step back before I got to your second question, but I thought that was important information to share.
Absolutely, yes. Ultra bath sounds fantastic, and then like you said, though, they're gonna feel good enough to begin to move, and then that cascades in a positive way, positive direction. Would you want them to do it like a cold shower, like for 30 seconds afterwards, like do some
Good question.
just stay hot?
Here's what I found. Well, the one thing too is if they do it in the morning and they find that they're just exhausted, like lightheaded, feel terrible, that's a very common situation if toxic overload is a big problem. See it more commonly in women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, approaching menopause, post-menopause, and especially women that don't sweat a lot. So if one of your female listeners is listening and she knows that if I said, hey, I want you to get in a sauna for 20 to 30 minutes, and that just sounds like the worst thing on earth to her, there's a good chance that she may be dealing with toxic overload. Now, again, why? What's causing the toxic overload? Is it parasites? Is it something else? Could be a lot of different things. But if doing the ultra baths in the morning just wipes you out and then you can't function during the day, you can't go to work, well, then do them at night and it'll help you sleep. Mm-hmm. That's a hack for it. In terms of cold showers, the one thing I've found about cold showers, incredibly effective. Cold thermogenesis is one of the greatest tools we have for increasing our resistance to stress, particularly when it's in cold natural bodies of water. The other thing I found is that nobody likes doing them. And and I could tell people that it will make them smarter, more attractive to the opposite sex, and everything that we all want. And they'll be like, what else can I do? Just because. And it's crazy because they have no downsides. Like there is no downside to doing a cold shower besides it is uncomfortable. And yet everyone runs from it. And there's probably a connection there because it is only all change happens outside of our comfort zone. And it is only the people, if you are fed up with being, I think I said fet up, I'm making up words. If you're fed up with being sick, tired, in pain, the only way to get out of it is going to be a willingness to get outside of your comfort zone and stay there for as long as possible. And cold showers will absolutely help. But I know anyone listening, we're going to tell them that. And are they going to do it? Probably not. There may be like 1 out of every 20 or 30 people that is willing to develop the mental fortitude and strength that it takes to do cold showers, but most people are soft. That's the reality. So if you're listening and you're soft, it's going to keep you from making the progress that you want. And that's just kind of like my coaching style is like sometimes we all need a loving kick in the butt. Yep. And like, if you're being soft, I'm going to tell you, you're being soft, and it's going to keep you from getting the success you want. And you're not going to get it from just sitting here listening to podcast after podcast and doing research. Is preparing to do work is not doing work, and gathering information is not doing work. The podcasts aren't helping you if you're not implementing this information. It's like there was someone once said to me, they're like, you've only learned something if it results in behavioral change. Ooh. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You're gathering information.
Yes. Wow. I'm reading this book with my husband called Get Smart, and it is such a kick in the butt. I mean, every single chapter is like, it's like, I wish I could go back in time and teach these lessons to my younger self. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, I highly recommend that book. But yeah, it's all about, implementing. If you're not implementing or taking action, then the learning hasn't actually taken place.
Is that the Brian Tracy book?
Oh my God, I'm. It escapes me the name. I'd have to Google it.
Is it how to think and act like the most successful people and highly paid people in every field?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the book.
Does it have like a picture of a multicolored head on the cover?
I think so. Yeah, we have the audio book, and
Okay.
so we have the physical book and the audio book, and then every time we go somewhere, we're listening to the book, and because I hear so much more when he's reading it, and then when we read the book, it like sinks in more. So
Yeah, I do that. I do that with everything. I buy books and then I'm like, and then I realize that I can listen to it on audiobook like four times faster. So then I buy the audiobook. So I have so many books in two different formats, and it's usually the audiobook that actually gets into my dome.
exactly, yeah, and then it's like it's not wasteful time when we're driving places.
Hmm.
So we're like, ooh, traffic, yay,
Yeah,
audiobook.
the traveling university, as they say.
Exactly, yeah.
And then the other cause of pain is that was that next? Um,
Yeah,
did I
no,
cover the
I
other stuff?
so just I mean, there's so many different causes of inflammation, but what's a just to give people an idea. But wait, I want to go back to the cold shower thing. So
Sure.
we're doing the ultra bath. It's super hot. Do you recommend that they do like a 30-second cold shower afterwards,
No,
like
no.
contrast hydrotherapy, or just stick with the hot hydrotherapy?
Just do the hot hydrotherapy to start, because I think complicating it with the cold shower may turn some people off and result in inaction. I would
Hmm.
say just do the hot bath, and you can even wrap yourself in a towel afterwards to keep sweating.
Hmm.
Because a big part of why we're doing it is we're using that hyperthermic conditioning
Hmm.
as passive exercise.
Oh, okay. And also, it's emunctory. It's the sweating is getting rid of toxins through the skin.
Hmm.
Fantastic. Excellent. And what other common forms of inflammation are there that lead to chronic pain or that exacerbate chronic pain that we can change? So, like fried food, for example, we should all avoid because it's pro-inflammatory. What other things are pro-inflammatory?
Well, we'll get into the other thing that I see that's often overlooked as a cause of chronic pain. So the first, as we mentioned, is parasites. We have to address diet, which is without a doubt the biggest cause of chronic pain and inflammation, or at least it worsens the symptoms that that may exist because of some of these underlying issues. So if you look at it as like parasites may be an underlying issue, but the pain and inflammation that we experience due to parasites is much, much worse if you're eating the wrong stuff. And just to oversimplify, and I talk about this in a lot more detail in my free book, Biohacker's Guide to Upgraded Energy and Focus. Time for the shameless self plug.
I totally recommend it. Absolutely. Go to biohackingsecrets.com and get the book, read the blog, listen to the podcast. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
going.
We even threw up a site, just biohackersguide.com, to make it easy so people could just go there and grab the book. And but the big five, to simplify things, if you're eating the big five on a regular basis and you're experiencing pain, stop. It's even more important. Like I say, what you don't eat is more important than what you do eat. And a lot of people have this misconception that like you can cancel out like eating something bad by eating something good. It doesn't work like that. So the big five, all grains, not just gluten. I know a lot of people have cut out gluten. I'm talking about all grains. Cut them out. I don't care if you're eating quinoa and all sorts of healthy pseudo grains or whatever. Cut out all grains. Cut out all dairy. Cut out all alcohol. Cut out all sugar/processed foods and GMOs, corn, soy, canola oil, and their derivatives. That's the big five. If you're experiencing pain and you're still eating anything in that list, cut it out for 30 days. Watch your pain decrease.
Wow. I my energy increased. I did that. I followed your instructions, and I feel so much more energy and mental acuity. It's amazing. And then if I go out and have some rice, for example, I just felt crappy for like 3 days. It was
Yeah, yeah, it's
amazing.
cool. Well, that's awesome. Very, very, very proud of you and happy to hear.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's the greatest thing about it is that um, one of the biggest benefits is everyone beats themselves up when they slip. If I tell them, hey, eliminate it for 28 days, and it's like 3 weeks in, and they eat something that's not a part of the program, and then I get the inevitable message on our coaching platform like, Anthony, I screwed up, and I'm like, no, don't worry about it, because then it's usually followed by, and I feel like butt. They're like, I'm tired. I'm like, my mood sucks. My pain is worse. All that, and I'm like, good, 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 because it's self-correcting.
Mm-hmm.
You start to it starts to open your eyes to the way that these things are affecting us, and then you're less likely to slip up like that. Whereas most people are just eating that stuff on such a regular basis, they don't even give their bodies a time. They don't even give themselves a chance to know what they would feel like without that junk in their system.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it all starts there. It's like it's if you're eating a food that is initiating an autoimmune reaction in your body, or you have a food sensitivity to, it doesn't matter if you're also eating a ton of salads or veggies or whatever, what have you. That inflammatory response is still going to be there. You're still going to be having an immunogenic and an allergenic response to that food, and it's not canceled out by the green stuff. So it starts with not eating the problem foods, and then you can further multiply your benefits by eating the good foods.
It is so easy to avoid those foods now in this day and age. I mean, when I was a kid, my mom took me to see Dr. Diadamo, the man who wrote the book Eat Right for Your Blood Type. And he got us off of dairy as one of the foods he got us off of. And back then in the 80s, it was like the only thing you had was soy milk. And now, I mean, there's like 10 different kinds of alternative milk. You can get dairy-free yogurts, dairy-free ice cream, everything, you name it. About once a month or once every 2 months, my husband goes back and has a meal with dairy, and then the next day he feels like butt, and he says to me, "Man, I used to feel this way all the time. I can't believe it." And it's just, that's people, like, you're right, people are so habituated to feeling crappy, they don't even know that there's this like feeling so amazing, if they were to cut out these foods for any length of time. So I highly recommend that as well. Excellent.
Yeah. You brought up something that, or at least what you said, reminded me of something important too, because and I don't know if you get this, but one of the questions that I get a lot is like, well, my grandparents didn't eat like that. Why do I need to be so strict? I don't get it. Why is all of a sudden why are these foods suddenly an issue now?
Because it's not the same food.
Exactly. It looks the same, but it's not. Like, even the soy milk in the 80s that you mentioned, it wasn't GMO. Right. They didn't start genetically modifying soybeans until the 90s. So it was
pesticides. I mean, back in the 80s, there was so few amount of pesticides used compared to today. It's way more pesticides are used.
Way more pesticides. I mean, yeah, they still had some of those phytoestrogens, but not. I highly doubt the phytoestrogens are anywhere close to producing the same health ramifications as the pesticides and the glyphosate, the herbicides, and whatever the heck else is going into these GMOs today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the farming practices have completely changed. The quality of the milk has changed. I mean, our grandparents had access to milk that didn't have, antibiotics, and the cows were probably happy, on a, grass fed. Whereas now the cows are all, crammed together in stalls being fed GMO corn.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality of our foods completely changed in the last 100 years. And then, of course, the farming practices have actually leached minerals from the soil. They don't rotate crops. They don't remineralize the soil. And the pesticides actually will bind to, their chelators. They bind to minerals and wash them away from the soil. So we are getting food that is void of nutrition. That's why organic has a potential to actually have more minerals, because that soil at least wasn't bastardized by the chelating effects of the pesticides and herbicides. So yeah. Anyway.
Very, very good point.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get me started. So we talked about inflammation and parasites being a really big thing that people need to look at when they're faced with chronic pain, especially when they've done many other things and they're still experiencing chronic pain. What other big points do you look into to helping people get to the root cause of their chronic pain?
Well, another one that, as I've alluded to, there's a lot, and that's why I start every client out with a detailed health assessment. It's that deep discovery that starts the second we get on the phone. Right now, just because a lot has we didn't. We didn't put all the pieces in place to have like customer service and people helping me with some of these calls before we released the book. And so it's like, I feel like I'm spinning plates some days, but I'm doing a lot of the calls. And the cool part is I start deep discovery as soon as I'm getting on the phone with applicants, and it's figuring out what it could be. But another one besides parasites that is often overlooked is dental infections.
Ooh.
So, people are probably well aware, your listeners, at least because they're a more savvy cross section of the population, that, mercury and some of those things in our mouths are toxic. But what is overlooked a lot are root canals, dental abscesses and cavitations, missing teeth that could have become infected, and those areas can harbor bacteria, particularly gram-negative bacteria, which do not stay localized in the mouth. They can then affect our heart, all of the organs in our body. They can affect pain and inflammation, and they will continue to do so until the infection is addressed. And that should be done with the assistance of a biological dentist and or orthodontist.
I love that you said biological dentists. I've actually been researching local dentists here to find one that doesn't use fluoride and all the other bad stuff. And I saw that the newest thing to getting rid of cavities is not drilling and putting a filling in; it's using ozone.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty far out.
Yeah, yeah. I went to my first dentist appointment in a little over 4 years a couple weeks ago, and yeah, they had the ozone machine going, and they were brushing my teeth with like clay or something that something that was basically like a refined dirt, and but it was a great experience. And then the one thing I was a little bit caught off guard by is they recommended I see someone else, because I had broke my jaw playing baseball growing up. I got hit in the face with a baseball. And there's always been a part of me that has said, well, what could be going on there? I mean, I shattered my upper jaw,
Mm.
and I lost a tooth. Another tooth was killed. He was murdered in the incident. And I want to make sure that there's not stuff going on in the bone underneath the surface that may be holding me back from being the best version of myself. And they recommended I went and see an endodontist that they refer people to. And when I called it the endodontist, I was supposed to actually go in tomorrow, and I called the endodontist, and I'm like, I apologize, but I feel like I don't know what's going on. I'm like, what am I going in to see you guys for? And they were like, well, we specialize in root canals and different procedures like that. And I was like, I don't want to be getting a root canal. I'm like, that's not that's not really what I'm interested in. So I canceled the appointment, and I'm gonna do a little bit of digging, probably like you are, and find a good biological orthodontist or someone else in the field whose practices are more along the lines with what Weston A. Price and some of his colleagues have found to be conducive to better human health and what's going on in our mouths.
I love Weston A. Price, by the way. Fantastic website with just a plethora of information. When I was looking into homemade formulas for my baby, and then picking out the healthiest formulas, they had such comprehensive information. It was the best place on the web to find information about how to healthfully feed an infant. So I thought that was really cool. I like your attitude, I think we all need to adopt that attitude that if you're not 100%, like do a gut check, if you're not 100% about your doctor or your healthcare professional, then go seek another one. Go seek a second, a third, a fourth opinion. Don't just go, oh well, I have the appointment. Or so I know some people that go, oh, I don't want to upset my doctor.
Hmm.
And it's like, no, you don't understand. They're here to serve you, and you need to be 100% that this is the right person, because you're handing over your trust, your health, your body to this somewhat stranger. And so that you did a gut check, and you're going to do more research, and you're going to find the person you trust to hand over your body to.
Yeah.
That's something we really need to become more aware of.
Yeah. I mean, that scenario that you just described, I can guarantee if someone feels like they don't want to do X, Y, or Z because of the possibility of upsetting their doctor, that is going to be a theme that is keeping them stuck in many different areas of their life. That's not a specific scenario. That's a problem. That's someone that's not putting themselves first, and someone that is also likely to be a chronic accommodator is a term I like to use.
Hmm.
Um, and there's some soul searching and work that needs to be done there, because we will never ever self actualize and become the best version of ourselves if we don't put our own oxygen mask on first, and if we're making decisions based on fear, the fear of upsetting other people, or fear in any way, shape, or form.
Man, I think we could just sit here for the next 12 hours and learn from you. There's so much that you have to offer. I highly recommend my listeners check out your podcast, as I will be, and that's Biohacking Secrets with Anthony DiClementi. It has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I want to, before we end today's episode, is there anything else that you wanted to share around this topic?
No, I mean, yes and no. There's so much we could share. I mean, maybe if the listeners enjoy this episode, have them let you know. And there are a number of different supplements that I use to help with pain and some other things. We can, I'm like, as you know, I love talking about. I can talk about just about anything. I enjoy this stuff. So have your listeners let you know what they want to hear about. If they have specific questions, is it what supplements are most effective for dealing with pain? What are some of the ways to work through some of the other common causes of pain? Whatever it is, whatever people want to hear about, just ask and we will deliver.
Absolutely. You can email me, Ashley at learntruehealth.com, and let me know what else you want to learn from Anthony, and we'll absolutely have him back on the show. He's a fantastic wealth of knowledge. I highly recommend also checking out his book. So go to biohackingsecrets.com. Was there a website that takes them straight to the book, or is biohackingsecrets.com the best one?
Yeah, straight to the book is just biohackersguide.com. And the book is called The Biohacker's Guide to Upgraded Energy and Focus, an uncommon system to rapidly optimize physical and mental performance. And we've got a ton of stuff. We've got a whole section on chronic pain and some of the things that can be done to alleviate it and improve your situation. So, it's one of those things where, as you know, we can only work with so many people. So we tried to create the book as a way for people to take their health into their own hands and empower them with the right type of knowledge they need to improve their physical and mental health.
I love it. And then I'd love for you to challenge our listeners to do something. What could they implement into their life for now and for the next 7 days to become a better version of themselves?
Well, specific advice would require a knowledge of their intimate situation, but I would say everyone can benefit from at least doing a test where you eliminate those big five that we discussed: all grains, dairy, alcohol, sugar, processed foods, and GMOs, particularly corn, soy, canola oil, and their derivatives. Do a test. If it's only 7 days, cool. The best results come from 28 days, because it takes 21 days for the inflammation to get completely out of our body,
Wow.
particularly from grains. So if you really want to know what it feels like to have those foods out and it's, doing a full 28 days will give you about 7 days of that, but you'll start to feel the benefits after just 7. So that would be the number one thing that I would say. Commit to that. The average human spends 28,000 days on Earth. We're talking about 28 days to possibly find the nutritional program that is best for you, and it's probably the biggest return on your invested time and energy that you can make.
And it's free.
It's free.
I mean, it's like take a cold shower's free, take a hot bath's free.
You'll actually save money. You'll save money eating less garbage.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Anthony DiClementi, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I really look forward to having you back. Congratulations again for launching your podcast. Can't wait to follow it. I'm going to go for a walk and take a hot bath and a cold shower.
Awesome. Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ashley. It's been wonderful as always.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com, and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.